What position, since they drafted Mahomes, do you think they've spent the least draft capital on? You want to give it a guess?
Well, they got Rashee Rice.
The answer is quarterback, but the next answer is defensive tackle. They have drafted incredibly well, and they have drafted a ton of corners, and they've drafted so well they can let Travarius Ward walk out the door. They let a guy go to Washington, forget his name right now.
Thornhill.
And Snead might walk out the door this year. They draft a bunch of defensive ends, back-to-back first-rounders. They've drafted wide receivers. They haven't hit on all of them, but Sky Moore, Rashee Rice. The one spot they have not addressed is D tackle. And not a lot of great D tackles available, right? I know Matabuke could be available, but that would be weird to not pay Chris Jones and then just pay 80% of it for Matabuke. I don't think they would do that. And so I would overpay for him. Mm-hmm. He's 3 years younger than Aaron Donald. He is not quite Aaron Donald, but he's the next closest thing. Mm-hmm. And Aaron Donald's been highly productive these last 3 years. And so if you follow that same path, here's the other reason. There are four. I don't know if Chris is a first ballot guy yet, but four no doubt Hall of Famers associated with the dynasty of players. Mahomes, Kelsey, Hill, Chris Jones, right? Those are the four. Mahomes didn't go anywhere. Kelsey at some point, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, will leave and you get nothing back because he will retire. Tyreek, you opted into losing him, but you got a ton back. Mm-hmm. For Chris to leave and you get nothing in return, you lose two of your four Hall of Famers over a stretch, and then three of your four eventually, and two of them you got nothing back. That's hard to deal with. So they could, but it's the one spot I would overpay to keep.
I go as far as what you're saying with the four of it. I think if Chris Jones never plays another snap, he's a Hall of Famer.
Oh, I agree. I was saying first ballot. The other guys,
I'm saying this guy, he is the most underrated player of this entire Chiefs run. If you take a look at the top 10 vote getters for Defensive Player of the Year, he didn't even make the list. Yeah. Deron Bland finished fifth in Defensive Player. Chris Jones is a game record. In the playoffs, it's his hit on Josh Allen. It's his pressure on Brock Purdy that makes all these plays. And he's beloved in the locker room. I saw Chris in Vegas at the Super Bowl, spent some time with his two agents, the Katz brothers, who are characters in themselves. He wants to be a Chief. He expressed as much in the parade. Yeah. The Chiefs want him. I will go to the Combine next week. I'm having dinner with Brett Veach and Andy Reid on Monday night. If you want to go and see us at St. Elmo's, we'll go. We could do TMZ. We could do the whole thing. We'll be there. You want to join? We can. Yeah. Big topic will be, what do we do to keep Chris Jones in this thing? Because free agency starts. And I will tell you, everybody in the Chiefs kingdom and everyone in that building wants him. Chris Jones wants to be there. I would overpay. Yeah. At the sacrifice of what? I mean, you let everyone else walk if you have to. Chris Jones belongs in a Chiefs uniform. They didn't do it last offseason. The ask might have been too big, but I thought he exceeded expectations. To me, this is a no-brainer. You pay the guy what he wants. He's earned it, and he earned it again this year.
Will he take a little less?
I don't think so.
Really?
I think he wants his money. I think so. He hasn't gotten that second major deal, and he played on the one-year deal this year.
Brew wants everyone to take a little bit less.
No, I'm just asking.
I think he earned it.
He would be my top. Yeah, he would be my top priority, keeping him. But like you said, Nick, they could win it without him. 2 years ago, when they won it, they won it last year. Obviously, the receiving core wasn't great. You had Juju, okay, but it wasn't a great receiving core. Mm-hmm. That defense was 16th in scoring defense and 11th overall. So this year, the defense carried them. It was top two, but they won it still without a great receiving core and a mediocre defense. So they could do it again, but I wouldn't try it.
They would have to pivot. Without Chris Jones, you have to pivot back to a more explosive offense. Because you have – it's so much of the success of a George Karlaftis' first couple of years and these other guys are because so much of the focus is on Chris.
Here's the other thing. Joe Burrow hopes you get rid of him.
Well,
and Josh Allen hopes he walks, and Brock Purdy hopes he walks.
Is that somebody? But I'm more worried about one of the other
Orlando
AFC
Brown type
teams.
Deal where they pluck them.
Trying to weaken the Chiefs and by overpay. No,
maybe the Patriots, but we have a lot of cap space, and when we meet up in the playoffs,
okay, all right,
pretty solid. 13-4 to 4-4, and he led the NFL with 18 passes, passing touchdowns at the time. He hurt his Achilles. So, what is the best fit for Kirk?
I mean, okay. So this is where I'll be
Don't do it. The guy's making $880 and just took Mahomes to overtime.
Hey, buddy. Let me give the take. Kirk Cousins has made $231 million in his career. 11th most all time. He's going to finish in the top 10 of all football players ever. The best fit, if he wants to win a Super Bowl, is to go to his, the old high school sweetheart. And the guy that didn't scout Patrick Mahomes because he was so certain he was getting Kirk Cousins in Kyle Shanahan. And I know people will be mad. It's unfair to Brock. Sports can be unfair. Sorry. The Niners would be better. They have been to 4 NFC championship games the last 5 years. They've been to 2 Super Bowls. They can't get over the hump because the gap has been that big at quarterback, among other reasons. Again, Purdy played fine in the Super Bowl. He's not the reason they lost. But if they had a difference maker at quarterback, maybe it goes differently. And by the way, it doesn't mean you lose Brock Purdy. You have Brock Purdy under contract for the next 2 years for $880,000 and then $1.1 million. So the best fit is San Francisco on a cheap deal. Now, will he take less money? I don't know. If he would, I bet you Kyle would do it. I think he's wanted Kirk Cousins for better part of 7 years, and so that's the answer.
Look, I'm not going to sit here, as much as I like Purdy, and say he's better than Kirk Cousins or definitely better than Kirk Cousins. But what is Kirk Cousins' deficiency? Big games, big moments, prime time, right? I mean, we know that's not a problem with Brock Purdy.
Do we?
Yeah, yes, we do.
Okay.
You're in the goalpost.
Yeah, we're
I
in the
mean,
goalpost.
you're lucky they're not in here. You wanted him to prove he could come back. He did it twice in the playoffs.
17-point deficit.
Yes, and as you guys said, played well in the Super Bowl. Not awesome, but well. We don't know if Kirk Cousins does that. And as much as I like Cousins, because he is great in the regular season when it's at 1 o'clock and nobody's watching. I'm just saying that, Nick, because they got to win it next year. They got to win it next year, so it'd be a lot of pressure on Kirk Cousins. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Cousins to me is a Viking. O'Connell likes him. Kwesi, the GM, this is his first big decision. The fully guaranteed or the not fully guaranteed. Look, they've given him fully guaranteed money in the past. Is that necessarily an end-all, be-all for Kirk Cousins? To your point, he's made the 11th most money in the NFL history. They're happy in Minnesota. They built their home. You watch the quarterback. I think the greatest thing for Kirk Cousins, as sad as it sounds, was that quarterback series on Netflix. I think he endeared a lot of people. I think he came a long way, and I think people are rooting for Kirk Cousins as opposed to him being a punching bag and a strawman. He's being put on the NFL honors and a dancing thing, and we laugh with him, not at him, which I think is huge. And I think Vikings fans appreciate what he is and what they became without him. I'd be shocked if they let him walk out the building there. So to me, they did this in the regular season, guys. In Week 17, they had him out there doing the skull chant shirtless. That's not a guy who we're looking to replace. He is part of that culture, part of the fabric. Whether he's a winner or not is a debate. He did go into New Orleans and beat a Sean Payton Saints team that was really good in the playoffs and found Kyle Rudolph in the back of the end zone and win a big playoff game. That's something that a lot of quarterbacks haven't done in their NFL careers.
Like a little high-low from
I understand that Brew has positioned it as if I'm hating on Brock, even though Brew would not say there he thinks Brock is better than Kirk. He said, he's like, I'm not saying he's better than Kirk. So I am just asking the audience this, not necessarily this group, because I'll just get double talk from that side of the table. Would the Niners, for anyone out there that is not a Niners fan, would you be more or less scared of the Niners next year if they added Kirk Cousins this offseason? And you'd be more scared.
I think there's a level of uncertainty.
And they could sign him.
How could you get more close to winning the Super Bowl than having Mahomes in overtime? A ball hit a guy's heel.
Okay, I get it. That was last season.
Extra point.
We are now.
Mahomes goes 8 for 8.
I get it, guys, but that season's now over, and we're talking about next season.
I know, but
wouldn't you admit there's a little bit of uncertainty with Cousins? What I said earlier with the big games, but also coming off the injury, he is older.
You know what it would be akin to? It would be akin to the Rams saying, Jared Goff's good, and we got the Super Bowl with Jared Goff.
Yes.
But Matthew Stafford gets us over.
Or the Niners, akin to, we got to the Super Bowl and we're one throw away from beating Mahomes. What could be closer than beating Mahomes, than up 10 in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo? They literally got rid of the guy. They literally got rid of him for a guy from North Dakota State. So the idea that they wouldn't think about doing it for Kyle's long-lost love, I disagree with. Patriots draft Jaden Daniels at 3 and trade the 35th pick for Tee Higgins. You'd sign up for that, right?
Yeah.
So it's smart business if you're Cincinnati. Jamar's about to become the highest or second highest paid receiver ever. He and Justin Jefferson. Joe Burrow, we just saw him. You can't, in my opinion, do all of that and then be like, and also for 1 year, we're going to tag Tee Higgins and then let him walk out the door for nothing. Right. That you do that if you have, 39-year-old Drew Brees. Not if you have Joe Burrow going into year 5. like that, in my opinion, that would be irresponsible team management. It's also what I think they're going to do. I think they're going to say, gosh darn it, we wanted one more year of Chase, Higgins, and Burrow. We didn't get it last year because of the injury. So we're going to tag him and hold on to him.
Oh, wow.
And then let him walk out the door in a year.
This particular player is an interesting one because for years, for decades really, it was like the Bengals and 31 other teams, how they do about their business and their practice facilities, and they don't get the best free agent. And Elizabeth Blackburn and Kate Blackburn have come in and taken a bit more of the reins, and Duke Tobin's a GM. And suddenly the Bengals seem like they're this forward-thinking, big spending. They go and get free agents. This is an interesting one. How are you going to handle the Tee Higgins one? Because, to your point, Jamar Chase is going to be the big fish. This is 1A, maybe 2, and that might be an insult to Tee Higgins because he's been outstanding, but just the way it goes, can they find a way to budget this both and make it all work? If they do, that's a franchise that is as forward-thinking as all the others. If not, and Tee Higgins just walks and you get a compensatory pick, sometimes that's how it goes. Alvin Harper leaves the Cowboys and goes to Tampa, and that's just what it is.
Yeah, I feel like he's probably gone because, I mean, he's not your number one. And Tyler Boyd, you can keep for cheaper, or you can draft a guy. If you trade T, get a first-round pick,
They like
a deep receiving.
the kid from Princeton, Andre Yoshavash this year, who's a 6th-round pick who was great for them.
It's a deep receiving group, too, in the draft.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.